Well, welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us both here in person as well as on Zoom, for our friends that are on Zoom. And welcome to the Salvation Army Ray and Joan Rockport Community Center. It is really good to be back here in person with each one of you finally. We are now multi-dimensional. It is very, very good to be here. I'm Lauren Stevens. I'm the Director of Social Ministries at the Salvation Army here in Greenville County. It is my honor to now be serving as the chair of the Greenville Homeless Alliance. In addition to that, I serve as the vice president of the Greenville Lawrence chapter of the Upstate Continuum of Care. A little bit busy, not a whole lot busy though. And so we have a tight agenda this afternoon, so I'll be as brief as possible. While we all know that's probably not going to happen, I'm going to give it my absolute best effort. For the past 2 years, the Greenville Homeless Alliance has been led by my good friend and colleague, Ryan Dirk, the CEO of Miracle Home Ministries. For those of us that know Ryan, we all understand that public attaboys are not why he does this work each day, but rather Ryan possesses a never-ending drive to make the place that he calls home possible to be called home by folks that he and his ministry serve each day. Ryan is a founding member of the Greenville Homeless Alliance. He took on the task of writing the guiding documents of how this alliance has grown over the past few years, as well as he helped to set the stage for the advocacy opportunities that members of this alliance have participated in following the creation of GHA. Ryan was the vice chair of the alliance in 2018, and within his first 7 months as chair of GHA, he began his new role as the CEO of Miracle Home Ministries. Ryan commits completely to everything in his life, and with this large shift in responsibility, and then the COVID-19 pandemic, Ryan honored his commitment to this alliance during a time when walking away might have been what he should have chosen. Our gratitude for Ryan's leadership should be characterized as the largest tests of faith in our professional experiences, a hard act to follow. Just a second. Okay. Good to go. That was fun. So our gratitude for Ryan and his leadership through what could be characterized as one of the largest tests of faith in our professional experiences will be a hard act to follow. But it is the collaborative, innovative, principled, and supportive nature of him that will be his legacy within this alliance. To build bridges, you must first recognize that there is a need for one to be built, to move people to areas they otherwise will not find on their own, to form a connection between two distant points, from tents to tenants. Bridges act as a place to start, a place to build from. But we all know that bridges are complicated, they're complex, and they're sensitive to every small detail. They take time and careful thought, but most importantly, bridges take a vision and a belief in what they will become. They're connectors. They bring folks from one side to another, but they also serve as a refuge to many, a shelter from life's storms. And sadly, here in Greenville County, for too many people, their home. We are presenting Ryan today with a gift that we felt embodied the beginning of the bridges Greenville needs. Ryan is an avid reader. If you've ever been in his office, his shelves are lined with books of many varieties. We are hopeful that this bridge can be used to bring together the stories, ideas, and perspectives from his many books and serve as a visual reminder of the bridges that have been built through his time as GHA's chair. This alliance functions at its highest level when we are collaborating with one another. We've seen this through numerous initiatives over the last 2 years, and it is my sincere hope that we will continue to see this collaborative environment flourish as we continue this journey to see safe, affordable homes for everyone in Greenville County. As I was reflecting on what I should say to thank Ryan for his leadership, for his vision, for his grace, and his friendship, and many other things, I remembered a conversation that we had through texting at the very heart of COVID, in some of the hardest moments of our time together as chair and vice chair. Ryan said, "Lauren, I have learned over the years that our job is to love unconditionally and challenge appropriately. We help people to see who they are, and we do it not to break relationships, but to make them. Once we see who someone is through them, we can challenge them to challenge themselves. Ryan and I often talk about many of life's storms, ones we face professionally, personally, the ones that have triumphed over us, as well as the ones that we ourselves have been victorious. Ryan claims victory ahead of the fight because he holds the belief that we can make life better for our people, for our community, and for ourselves. It has been one of the honors of my professional life to serve alongside Ryan, to learn from him, and to see into how he loves God's people through his ministry. In a closing thought, let us take the advice of Ryan. Let's challenge ourselves to change this place that we call home, recognizing that the first step is to learn to see ourselves as we are while holding on to what we wish to become. Ryan, we are deeply grateful for all of the many things that you do that are seen and the ones that are unseen, doing them on behalf of our neighbors that are both seen and unseen. Please, everyone, join me in a round of applause for our exiting chair, my good friend, who is probably now mad at me, Ryan Garrett. Now to business. I'm now going to introduce our next speaker, Moody Black. Moody Black is a TEDx performer, a national award-winning poet and host, a smart arts teaching artist, say that a couple of times in a row, motivational speaker, spoken word and visual artist, actor, voiceover artist, chess instructor, storyteller, and comedian from Spartanburg, South Carolina. He now resides here in Greenville. Moody Black is passionate about teaching poetry to youth and adults and speaking about purpose and challenging depression. Each time Moody is on the stage, he aims to uplift every person in the audience. As this day represents our first time for GHA and the Upstate Continuum of Care Greenville chapter to join together for a joint meeting, and for both to be back together in person since over a year ago, we asked Moody to write a poem and center our time today. Please join me in welcoming him to perform Homeless.
Good afternoon. I'm kind of loud, so I might get back a little bit. I'm about to teach y'all some things you may not know, particularly if you work with some young people. I'm going to teach you a phrase you might have heard, didn't know what it means. I got you. The expression "no cap" is slang meaning no lie or for real. Often used to emphasize someone is not exaggerating about something hard to believe. They say it takes a village. But what if there's no village to take? And if they say home is where the heart is, well, that's true. And sadly, on any given day in the US of A, 550,000 plus people are heartless, without home, that is, or anywhere to hang their hat. No cap. But the fact is that homelessness has a face. And it looks like your cousin, your auntie, uncle, your baby brother can even share your reflection if you're the one that people are neglecting. Treating you like you're a lowercase. No cap. And for a small moment in time, I was without home when rent got too high and mama and sister had to move on and granny them at the room had to figure it out on my own and try to live with my pops, but we didn't get along. I learned that the stars look different when you're sleeping in your car. And boarding houses and hotels charge more than your landlord did, so my pull-up game was strong, meaning I would pull up at hotel parking lots, pull up at my friend's driveway when his family was asleep, pull up at Walmart and Waffle House, scrape some change, get those hash browns smothered and covered. No cap. I feel like being homeless transformed into a wolf walking alone in the desert while everyone there's telling you that you ain't worth having water. Don't let this place convince you that you don't deserve a chalice. Cup filled with chances while you're trying to fill it with change. Everybody who's homeless is not there because of their choices. Chances are sometimes the circumstances choose you. And you're hoping for some change. And everybody that's homeless don't have an addiction. Sometimes it's due to an addiction. So what are we to do? Especially when we live in society where we're scared of the truth. The truth itself is under attack. And people without these resources are our truth. And we're scared to look at it, the truth, that is. Because the truth makes us uncomfortable. And no one wonders how the truth feels. Well, it's uncomfortable. Like when it lay under bridges, on park benches, on concrete sofas, but you know how we do. We hide the truth so it doesn't mess up our beautiful landscape of lives. We don't want it to wreck our real estate, but it's funny, these folks represent our real estate. Listen, just because one is homeless don't mean that they are not human. Many of us handle the heartbreak, losing everything a little different. Coping with having nothing and being told you nothing is a double-barreled shotgun shot to the psyche. It might be that we need to check ourselves. We need to come together and make this place a place where everyone has a place with proper health care, fair housing, proper mental health services. Yes, we all need a mind check, because there are people in a position to help the homeless, but they refuse to sign the check. It's hide and go seek trying to find respect. Like they don't breathe the same air we breathe. They didn't know in their hearts that we're supposed to be here, that they're supposed to be here, that they prayed on bended knee like it's a game being played and they don't want to put in it. Okay. But these are people, y'all. Homeless, but there are more broken homes than any missing parent can create. Ironically, sometimes society creates homeless people. Because you're telling me that we can send people to outer space. We can't spend money to get somebody in space. Yes, dear everyone who feels like a nomad, there are people here, right here, who rise for you. You may be homeless, but don't be hopeless. There are people fighting hard to give you a space. Where you can look at the stars from the window of your living room, and maybe they will shine different. Maybe all you need is a little bit of hope and help, and maybe you can shine different. And maybe if we all get together, supply everyone with the bare necessities, we can join together and put people first. We create help and hope. We create a village, caring. We create opportunity for crisis and resilience, for collaboration. That is no care.
I was in the car riding with Susan to go to Charlotte to see a Roof from Above, and Rudy was on the phone, and Susan asked him if he would come and do a poem. And three of us in the car kind of talked to him about what it was going to be, but wow.
You're muted,
And I
right?
saw my name following his.
Thank you, Moody.
I'm here representing the steering committee of GHA, but also a working group that's about collaborating. I have been most impressed here in Greenville at how different service providers collaborate with one another. And so what we've done at Greenville Homeless Alliance is we have a group of folks from different cross sectors in Greenville who get together and learn how to do what's called mapping. And no, it's not about geography, though it could be. It's about people and relationships. And so what we do is we put the person in the middle, and then we ask now who or what or where affects this person. Where do they find themselves in the path? And so we're specifically looking at people experiencing homelessness, and we ask ourselves, who, what, when, where affects this person? So this Collaborate working group, I'm going to ask those of you who are in this working group to please stand for a moment as I speak about you all. You would stand for here. I know there are many of you here. All right. So this group of wonderful folks have been together for several months, and we have been, our co-chairs, Paulette Dunn and Julie Walkup, have done a wonderful job. I'm the liaison with the steering committee on the Collaborate Working Group. But this group was headed towards just helping out Greenville and trying, and then all of a sudden, the American Rescue Plan came about, and Greenville needed to come up with a plan. And so a group of folks got together, and Heather Gatchell said, you know what, Jennifer, this is all about what Collaborate Working Group has been doing. And so we took it to the Collaborate Working Group, and we said, hey, would y'all be willing to pivot from what we're doing? Don't forget what we're doing, but let's put it to the side, and let's help out with the American Rescue Plan. So this wonderful group of creative, thoughtful people came together, and two suggestions they made that are going to be implemented was they suggested the strategy of using organizations that have a presence all over the county to be touch points for people. The libraries, the community centers, the schools, and the YMCA. That is being implemented. As well as they suggested using trusted community navigators to help with communication and assistance, which is also being implemented. So we wanted to take the time today to thank these folks for pivoting and for helping out with the American Rescue Plan and the work that is still to come in this community. We give you thanks. So please join me in thanking these wonderful folks.
Good afternoon. I'm telling you, I'm over there tearing, and somebody's saying you got to give a presentation in a couple of minutes. But my name is Lauren Crowell. I am a proud steering Homeless Alliance, as well as the Upstate Continuum of Care chair, and many other things that I don't need to mention. But today, I think what we're here to talk about is the American Rescue Plan. And for those who don't really understand, well, what is that, and how does that apply to us, and what does it do in this community? The American Rescue Plan is that $1.9 billion that was passed to serve folks with rental and utilities assistance and all kind of other support for folks who are at risk for homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness. And so several of us from the Continuum of Care to the GHA to the Greenville Housing Fund, the City of Greenville, the County of Greenville, many organizations, and if I didn't mention your name, you are important to the moon. But all got together and said, okay, not one organization can do this. It's going to take many, and it's going to take all of our expertise. It's going to take all of this community to make sure that we are implementing these dollars in the correct way. And so we all got into a group, thanks to Tina and Brian and the Graham Foundation, who, by the way, gave us the funding to be able to work through this 6-week plan. It was an intensive workshop that said, Greenville, here's how you can spend your money. Here are the pots of money that are going to be available. Here's what's been available. Here's how you guys can come together and put it to good use to those who need it the most. And so we started out with understanding our region and state's dollars. You know, what are those? How can we utilize those? And we'll see that in just a second. How do we find solutions for the eviction crisis? That's something that South Carolina faces in spades, is a huge issue with numerous people being evicted, and our policies do not reflect what needs to happen in order to change that move toward evicting people and not trying to help them remain housed. Creating new ways to solve homelessness, targeting the most vulnerable and impacting poverty, building a collaborative to reach those in need, and implementing a community plan. And for those who would like to know more or maybe more details, we have a full agenda, or we could talk all day about this, honestly. But the rethinkinghomelessness.org website is the place to go. I'm sure you'll get these slides and you can go and just take a look in depth at what is presented there. But for us, When I talked about all the organizations that were involved, this is the group that helped put this plan together. So as you can see, it's from many sectors, not just from one or two organizations, but from a true collaborative perspective. I'm gonna have to stand back here because I can't see that. If you can't hear me, let me know. So we knew in our community that emergency rental assistance round 1 and 2 were already either here or very much on its way pretty quickly. We also knew that what is called emergency solution grant with a COVID perspective, round 2 was already implemented. So we had to incorporate that into the plan. Emergency housing vouchers, we knew at the time were coming. 54 came to the housing authority, the Greenville Housing Authority, and there are others coming. And we're hoping to do a great job with this as a community so that we can apply for others. And then the home program. The home program is basically a fund that looks at concentrated development and rehab of units of affordable housing. And so each of these have an initiative that they are behind, or at least 3 or 4 targeted places where you can put this money. So rental assistance, case management, housing support services, that's emergency rental assistance. In emergency solutions grant dollars, we can use it for outreach or shelter services, homelessness prevention, or rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing is a program where you take folks and you agencies come alongside them with grant money to prorate their rent and move them through the case management program until they are able to stabilize and be able to take over the rent themselves. Emergency housing vouchers, these we received, we're receiving applications from folks who are in shelter, both individuals and families, and in special populations. In the home program, property acquisition is an area that we can utilize those funds, property rehab, and then also rent stabilization. So here's how we, after all of that work, look together to say, here's how we think we can apply these funds. So if you look at the green across the top, it tells you the fund. If you look at the green going down, it tells you the population we're serving, what type of assistance we'll provide, the dollars for admin, the dollars for case management, then housing support services, and how many folks or households we plan to help or assist. The emergency housing voucher program, again, is already underway. The emergency solutions grant funding, round 2, these dollars are already impacting those at 50% or below AMI area median income. And then in the emergency rental assistance, or ERAC round 2 funding, that is going to be decided by the county and implemented into our community. We've come up with a great plan that we presented to them, and Paul will come up and talk about that in just a few minutes and share some more details. We worked really hard around that program as well. Home funding for the city and the county. Those dollars have not been decided. We've just now gotten guidance from HUD on home program funding. So as soon as we go through that guidance and understand how we can utilize those funds, our efforts are going to be toward rehab and development. All right, and I think I'm going to turn it over to Nicole. My first talk is about, which program.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Wood. I know many of you have known me. I'm a technology administrator. Jared Calvin and I had the pleasure of last year in the county peer program. So I know and I recognize many of you from webinars and other things and requests that came through the county. And so that ended pretty much in December, January, and then come ERAC in January to March. So the county received another wave of funding, really transformational money has come into Greenville County. Now it's $15.8 emergency rental assistance, and utilities. And so I want to tell you a little bit about where we've come and where we're going with this ERAP funding. So in January, we received $15.8 million. In March, we launched a program through our partner Neighborly, and that's a software system that we use for the CARES funding. So we were very familiar. It's an easy online portal. In between those months, we did a lot of outreach with landlords, with nonprofits, direct service providers, to let people know what was going to be out there and what kind of help could be expected and what the application would look like, so that we could get rental and utility assistance out the door as quickly and easily as possible to those who need it the most. So who's eligible? So it's based on 3 different criteria from the federal government. First and foremost, you have to be below 80% AMI in Greenville County. And so based on your family size and household income, it's spelled out there. You also have to have a risk of homelessness. So that could be you were laid on utility bill, you're in rental arrears, you have instability in your housing, and then also a hardship due to COVID. And this is something that is the last thing we want people to get held up on in terms of getting help for rental or utility assistance. But if they had increased medical bills, if they're on unemployment, if their hours were reduced because of work or other situations because of COVID, they could sign an attestation and be certified to apply. So what's eligible? As I mentioned, rent, rental arrears, utility assistance, all our rental payments are going to be directed to the landlord. As I mentioned, it's also an online application. But the federal government was very strict and really wanted us to make sure that we wrote to priority applicants. So we put priority for those folks that were below 50% AMI, that we have an eviction notice, that were unemployed for 90 days or longer. And so today, we're very excited to share that we've already dispersed over $5 million to about 12 tenants, about 370 unique landlords. As I'm sure you all are aware, a lot of landlords are apartment tenants that could be applicable to apply. Our turnaround time from submit the application to the time they're told that you're procedure for typically 5 to 7 days. I've also put on that map, which is kind of small to see, but it's a map of Greenville County, and it's where the rental assistance has gone to date, broken out by census tracts as well as council districts. And you can see there, it's all over the county, but if you overlay the Urban Institute map on top of this as to where most folks are that live that are below that 30% AMI, you'll see the pockets that we're also hitting, which again, we're thrilled that that's the case. And so again, that's, as Lori mentioned, that's ERAP 1. Then in May, we received additional funding that Mary's going to talk about and kind of plans for where we're going to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll talk to you guys a little bit about the second round that we applied for, and as Nicole said, we received in May. We received 40% at this point, so it's a little over $5 million. So what Lorraine and others have alluded to at this point is that Greenville County was fortunate to collaborate, which I feel like is a word you've heard a lot of today, with many partners in the room around what do we do with this funding. It's very intentional. We wanted to make sure that we were going to be reaching those that are in need, so obviously turning to the experts to tell us, how does that work? The county is a seat at the table as a funder, and so we want to make sure that we're being good partners to allow for those of the experts in the room to help us develop a plan, which we have, and Lorraine mentioned. That plan is going to focus on families that are experiencing homelessness in Greenville County. It's going to include things like outreach, deposits, rental assistance, but most importantly, those wraparound services. So this is more of a holistic approach to the rental assistance and the aid that's being provided. As Nicole went through, the ERAP money from the first round is going as quickly out the door as possible to individual homes. This is going to continue alongside this other funding pot that we're going to, again, do in a different programmatic standpoint. So we, Greenville County, are continuing to be an active member, not only in those discussions about the funding, but also in the outreach strategy that we've been thrilled to partner with, and GHA has been one of those leaders in this. So in terms of the outreach, I'll talk to you about that in just a second, but Greenville County has continue to affirm that we are in support of the critical issues that are going on right now, affordable housing being one of them. As you've heard, council has been supportive and is going to allow for and set aside the additional funding in the next few years of the budget. So 2022 and 2023, we'll have $10 million aside for affordable housing, which is very exciting. Because as we all know, this is a huge issue here that we want to address. And I want to give a shout out. I know there are some council members on Zoom that couldn't attend here, so we are very grateful for their support. But like I said, the outreach strategy, again, trying to be very intentional with partners and bringing people to the table that are the experts around this. But we have kind of developed a plan that's going to really target those areas that we may have not saturated or gotten the word out to for whatever reason. We've heard that through the first program, so we want to make sure we're addressing that now moving forward. So a few of the goals of what we're calling our outreach team, it's been a small group of us that's come together to talk about this, is to mobilize those community navigators. So we keep hearing that, and we've heard that in other discussions about those people who are in communities, who are those voices for community members that they trust. So we want to make sure we're mobilizing those folks, that they're aware of the program, they know how to go online, they can access it. Access points is a huge part of the goal, wanting to make sure that we have collaborated with those community centers, YMCAs, the library systems, the Greenville County schools, everywhere that you may think that you could touch a family or give information. So working with those organizations here in Greenville, and again, utilizing funds in a way that's going to make an impact. So one of those conversations is around the outreach coordinator. So this is a huge undertaking when we talk about outreach in Greenville County. So we are looking at utilizing some of those ERA2 funds to support a position that will be in charge of that. I'm gonna go one more thing real quick. So how can you help? In terms of outreach or engagement for you guys, everybody in here is a stakeholder. If you want to get involved in this particular piece of it, contact Heather. We've got opportunities we are always looking for folks for a flyer. If you want to hand out flyers, if you'd be willing to be an access point as an organization, we will come train you on how to do the application. We went through this with our GHA, the community outreach group, and walk through the program just so that you know what it is and you can allow somebody to come in and do that. So if you're willing to be an access point, hand out flyers or anything else, I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but reach out to Heather or call Nicole or I directly at the county. We're always open to answer questions or be willing to plug you in if you're interested. So that's it for us, and I'll turn it over to Felicia. Sorry, I cannot read that one.
Good afternoon. I'm Felicia Henry, Director of Vibrant Natural Communities at United Way, and also a member of the steering committee. And today I have the honor and probably the challenge of coming behind a poet, a pastor, and a plan. So very good. So what we'll do during this time, I appreciate this stakeholder meeting because we really do need your very best thinking around landlord engagement. As Meredith and Nicole so beautifully laid out, and what the steering committee, in addition to a lot of community partners are working on, right, is how do we make sure that this funding that's coming into our community can very much be transformational. And it has the opportunity to do that, but we also know as great as our thinking has been around that, we also need additional input. So on your tables, and what you'll do in your groups is to answer two key questions around how we can continue to engage landlords. There's been really great engagement around things like housing choice vouchers, connecting landlords to rental assistance opportunities for their residents. But we need to continue to think around what are some additional ideas. So those two questions are how can we engage more landlords in Greenville, an opportunity that may arise with from ARP resources coming into our community. Again, $15.8 million is nothing to seize at. And then what other organizations need to get the table to maximize the impact of ARP. We'll give you a few minutes, about 5 to 7 minutes to really work on that, think about that with your groups. Leave your best 2 to 3 ideas on that.
Or I was gonna
piece of
fill
paper,
in some
on
of
your
the
table,
spots.
and then leave them there, and then we'll pass over to the next person to.
Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for that lovely and lively discussion on very important issue, I think, to the city and to the county and to all stakeholders here in engaging planning boards. So I'm sure Susan and Heather are very excited to get your answers and feedback, and the steering committee to look at that and see where we can take your information. The steering committee, I also work for the city of Greenville. I'm going to briefly introduce our next item in the agenda. I'm going to say a lot of things that you've already heard already, but just to drive that point home, what made me decide to come to Greenville and what makes it so unique is its innovative thinking and collaboration of several entities at the table. This is certainly held true with the Greenville Homeless Alliance's focus on collaboration and innovation. As you can see on the screen, the Greenville Homeless Alliance, the Continuum of Care, and the Greenville Housing Fund all intersect in this arena. While there are many ways in which these organizations intersect, there have been extensive discussions on how they might collaborate to individually lead the way in filling gaps in our community needs, particularly those that have been exposed during the pandemic. So as previously mentioned by Lorraine, this has led to the collaboration of organizations along with several other entities here to form a partnership surrounding funds provided by the American Rescue Plan. Through this partnership, each organization has fulfilled a needed leadership role, from the Greenville Housing Fund leading discussions on infrastructure and housing needs, to the CoC leading the charge with program and service priorities, and to the Homeless Alliance pursuing education and advocacy opportunities to reach those that need access to this funding the most. Over the next few minutes, you'll hear from these 3 specific organizations and how they're collaborating and what space they're taking up in this sector of all of this. So I think Lorraine, you are first. Yeah.
So, am I advancing or you're advancing? It doesn't matter. So, I was talking to an AP reporter, I don't know, I guess it was last week, and they were calling me about evictions and what's happening and all. And I was sort of sharing, pop back to the slide previous. I was sort of, okay, maybe one more there. So I was sharing some of this information and saying that we have GHA that is providing advocacy and education and collaboration and sharing messages and making sure everybody's informed. Then you have the Continuum of Care that is providing everything from what do we do, upstream approach from homeless prevention all the way to housing. We've got that plan. And then we also have the Greenville Housing Fund that is creating a coalition, a affordable coalition, which I'm the street committee member of that group as well, making a great plan to try to address the housing needs in our community. So that is literally our community's holistic approach to how we're going to address homelessness and housing needs. And she said to me, I've not heard this. This is the first time I've heard of something like this in South Carolina. So we are very proud that we are really working together and doing everything we can to make sure everybody's dropping their egos, dropping everything that has to do with anything else. And that's a good thing. Okay, so we talk about all of those things, and we talk about strategic planning for how are we going to deliver services in this community. If you look in the interior box, UHC and the CoC, Continuum of Care, is literally built to provide a continuum of care solution for programming. And that is across, we have 4 CoCs in the state. We are the Upstate Continuum of Care. We work in the 13 counties of the Upstate. Our home base is here in Greenville. So anything that we start begins right here, and then it trickles to the rest of the continuum. Across the continuum, here is what all of our 13 counties and our chapters have identified as the way that we are going to together address homelessness. And so if you look in the middle box, the CoC is funded and developed through what's called, well, it's legislation. And so through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And we are charged with everything in the middle with HUD funding for outreach, emergency shelter, and day shelter services, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing. So we get funding, federal funding for that. Everything else on the outside, we do not. But HUD requires us to develop a plan in order to bring those services around those performance measures. So when you look at homeless prevention on the end down here, that is literally an upstream approach. If we don't address that first and make that a priority, everything in the middle just keeps happening, right? So we have to create an upstream approach, and that looks like program development and funding for things like rapid resolution and diversion. And that is diverting people with the very first call. How can we help you remain housed, stay housed, or get housed without coming into the system? You know, the other thing we talk about is inventive programming like the Home Again program. UHC and the Greenville Housing Fund and United Way came together recently and over the past year during the pandemic and said, we've got to figure out how we can add not only just housing, but support services and long-term help for families who are making zero income or $20,000 a year. Just 12 months of help is just immaterial because you can't take someone from a $20,000 income over a 12-month period and they make $45,000. That's an impossible feat. So over time, how do we provide support? So that's some of our homeless prevention strategies. You'll see in the top box, the food insecurity and transportation, those directly impact our folks, no question, but it is not anything that our funding can provide. But we also want to make sure that we have partners in the community that are addressing those situations, and we do here. Transitional housing, the orange bubble that you see at the bottom, transitional housing used to be, and if Bruce is in the room, he would tell you, I think he's on vacation, he would tell you that he lost about $500,000 in HUD funding. We just placed probably 120 households in 2015 when HUD decided we're going to do rapid rehousing rather than transitional housing. And so we still need transitional housing. And so that's something that we really want to work for developing. And then we talk about moving people through the system. How do we do that? Because our goal is to make homelessness free, rare, and non-recurring. That means that more people or less people are waiting than there are opportunities to exit housing. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure that we're creating something up here that gives the people down here the opportunity to be housed and then move on to stability. So we talk about a move on strategy for our HUD program. How do we create and inspire and work with people to move them forward? But there's a couple of things that we're going to have in this community. If we don't have housing development, we don't have enough housing, everything else is immaterial. Well, not immaterial. It keeps people alive. But if our goal is to house people, that's what we need. We also need a housing subsidy. We're never going to be able to get developers to develop housing where our people pay $200 a month in rent. It's not going to happen. So what we need is a subsidy that says, we're going to give you 5 years, family, with a subsidy. We're going to help you with support services and opportunity to move you through in a move on strategy through the system, right? So we don't want that subsidy just to sit there for that one family indefinitely. We want it to move people through into housing. That is very important. And you'll see the housing fund create that as one of their major strategies. Landlord outreach is also another strategy. And then again, we talked about rent subsidy and the whole move on program. What we want to do is move people through the system. Okay. All right. So thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Lorraine. Again, I'm Susan McClarty with the Greenville Homeless Alliance. I'm going to talk briefly about how we fit into the collaboration here today. And since 2018, when my position was hired in GHA, we say became more formalized, it
It really built on a foundation that was laid by many of you in this room from the 2015 homelessness white paper and other what we call uniquely green-built solutions that formed the Alliance and included our response as a community to the tent city crisis, historic local dollars to address our housing crisis, the zoning change for the Salvation Army, condemnation of the economy in 2018. And we continue to ask, how do we increase our chance for success in addressing homelessness? So to change the direction Greenville was heading, which is creating exits, as Ryan coined the term for us on the steering committee, exits from homelessness, the Alliance provided this opportunity to shift the conditions that were holding this challenge of homelessness in place. And so to fully embrace what we call systems change, each of you, including me, should be prepared to see how our own ways of thinking and acting must change as well. Our success is more likely to be sustained when working at 3 different levels, which we're going to show you in the next slide. They are explicit, semi-explicit, and implicit. So in 2020, many of you might remember about this time last year, we turned 2, and the steering committee adopted the first strategic plan that was based on the 2019 report on homelessness in Greenville County. In 2021, there has been tremendous progress in launching our working groups. You're ensuring that that plan is brought to life. The work of the Alliance is modeled around the systems of change theory, which comes from the Water of Systems Change and was published in 2018. Live well, with us today. It's over here. Live well also uses the same theory model. The strategies for the Educate group, you can see at the very bottom of the inverted triangle, are designed to change the mental modals, which will over time shift our implicit biases that are held in place by you and me and others in this community when we think about homelessness. The leadership of our co-chairs of Educate group have lived experience. We also have a retired economist and writer turned pastor who happens to be over here to my left, Deb Richardson Moore in this group, and they're often ready to create a homelessness 101. The Collaborate working group that you heard from today is in that middle part of the triangle, with strategies aligned in the semi-explicit change. This group, as you've already heard, is drawing upon their relationships, connections to shift power dynamics. We at the Backbone South, Heather and myself, are thrilled with the progress in this area and thank them for their ability to adapt, as we've heard today. Many thanks to Lynn Ballard, who is joining us over Zoom as a council member that connected the Homeless Alliance to the Rethinking Homelessness opportunity. The Advocate group at the top launched first and has been hard at work. Their strategies are focused on explicit change through policy, practices, and the flow of resources. And Alexandra will share more about this on our agenda today. The Innovate group is launching soon, probably over the next 4 weeks, and positioned to connect kind of floats between those 3 we've talked about, so it can connect, educate, advocate, and collaborate. We are thrilled to announce that Tammy Hoy Hawkins of Community Work and Adrian Caesar of the Good Shepherd House and Elite Integrated Therapy Centers are co-chairs of our Innovate group. Staff of the Alliance has been tracking gender, race, professional, community sector, lived experience, and attendance in these working groups, so that we can ensure that this partnership is following our race, equity, diversity, and inclusion statement that our steering committee wrote and adopted this year. As a staff, again, we are thrilled to see the growth in our partnerships and the willingness to join together. Just this last week, I totaled up how many people, among these working groups and also our steering committee, we're interacting with on a daily basis. And it's 120. 120, y'all. We hope this helps you see the unique way GHA is igniting change to address homelessness in Greenville. That
studies, on developing the advocacy. So I'm just going to talk a little bit today about how we play this kind of three-part collaboration. Most notably, what Ryan said about our Greenville Affordable Housing Coalition, the work that's going on with that, and really how it creates a larger coalition of coalitions, basically. Okay, so at the Greenville Housing Fund, like Susan mentioned, really was the 2016, the culmination of efforts of council. So thank you to council from the city in allocating public dollars for affordable housing. And part of that really is broken into three tiers, what we do with those funds. The first part was kind of this traditional investing, but we've gone beyond that just in the creation of the housing fund just time ago. Really, the funding part of this is entrepreneurial. We are a nonprofit, and so we use credits for special credits, nonprofit status, keeping things affordable for their lifetime. That's traditional funding for the area. Because unlike other housing funds, we're now operating as so that really kind of sets us apart. We have a revolving resource revenue stream in that way, and then also we are doing some different new entrepreneurial things, such as the social impact fund, really leveraging private and public dollars as best we can. So at this point, for every dollar the city invests in the Greenville Housing Fund, for example, we're returning about 12 to 13 million, which is much higher than the $7 million average nationally. Acquire, we acquire lands, so land banking is part of our strategy as well. We're very blessed to have parcels donated to us from the city. We're also going out there and really making strategic decisions about really parcels to buy. There's a hole, we drill a hole somewhere, we've got all these zoning lands, where can we go in and decide to piece those together and make that property as really possible work for us. And then last is really advocacy. So policy, working with neighborhoods, working with local elected officials, as well as some state endeavors. That's just us as a whole, we're doing housing fund. This is what I'm really excited to talk about, is our Greenville Affordable Housing Coalition. So many of you might have been part of the conversations during our community rights strategic plan that launched this past October. And that's for the city. So a lot of service providers were interviewed, a lot of government, nonprofit, business leaders, like anybody who's in affordable housing, talking about this at all. And as a culmination of that, there were strategies, actions. And part of that really is bringing folks to the table, again, collaborating. How can we get everybody seeing the same message? Production tools, preservation tools, but also advocacy of policy, all working together to really bring this to fruition. So we've been lucky since October. We formed this coalition, really kicked off formally in January. We just serve as the backbone support facilitator, but many who are in this room serve on our steering committee. So we have government and non-governmental, nonprofit developers, private developers, which is essential as well. So GHA, GCRA, the City of Greenville, Habitat, Homes of Hope, Greenville Upstate, Homes Urban MHE, which are two private. Greenville Dreams, we have city and county representatives from neighborhoods, which is really essential. And that's under United Way, the Greenville program, and the Homebuilders Association of Greenville, and of course, American Housing Connections. So we all work together to kind of oversee the strategic plan. And then that's just our steering committee. Like the Homeless Alliance, we just bring everybody to the table. So we have over 50 partners at this point, since we launched in October. And really the goal is, if you look on our website with our strategic plan, is to cut the deficit in half in affordable housing over 10 years. And so that's the outline of the plan. We have to do it together, we have to do it collaboratively. And to do that, we need to produce 10,000 units over 10 years. We need to preserve another 3,000 to 5,000.
We've already gauged our pipeline with all of our 50 partners. We know we're meeting those reduction goals. We know we're meeting those preservation goals as of right now. The problem is reaching to the lowest incomes, right? We all struggle getting below that 50% line. You cannot do that without local rental subsidy and stabilization. And so those are the kind of strategies that we're looking at. How do we produce more strategically in locations that are going to be beneficial, right? Those residents, it's near transportation, near retail, near services, near employment and education. Okay, well that was kind of it in a nutshell. I do want to share real quick. You can see the dashboard for this coalition on our website, springfieldhousingfund.com. And that dashboard not only keeps track of the data in terms of what the need is for affordable housing in the city and county. The second page of that dashboard keeps track of what the coalition work that is coming out of this group. So have we met our production goals? Are we meeting our preservation goals? Are we meeting our local public investment dollar goals, which, you know, thankfully to the county a few weeks ago got a huge increase in funds. So really thank your council person. I'm going to point to the letters on your table to send a thank you note to them, because that is super important. If you're not a coalition member, please, I'm at that table back there. I'd like to talk to you more. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Alexandra Harris. I'm one of the program managers of the Interfaith Hospitality Network at United Ministries, but I'm here today because I'm one of the co-chairs of the Advocate Working Group. So I'm gonna do a collaborative, but smaller. Just wave your hand if you're one of my Advocate members. I know I'm looking at that table, my friends. Okay, I'm gonna keep this real brief. I've been given 3 minutes. Okay. So if you remember, we're at the top of that triangle. So we are all about structural change in our working group. The very first task that we were given from our esteemed steering committee was to create an advocate training academy. So what we have decided so far, this year we are creating kind of like a beta test of it. So we are intentionally creating the very first cohort, striving for all of our equity goals and our inclusion goals, trying to really prioritize lived experience with homelessness or housing insecurity. What it's going to look like when it actually rolls out is going to be very low to dare we dream for it, no barrier to being a participant in our training academy, because we truly believe everyone can advocate for the things that we know will move the needle on homelessness in our community. So far, the curriculum is going to be 4 pillars. It's going to be a civics 101, so some real basics of advocacy, who does what, who do I talk to about what. We're going to do a homelessness 101. Shout out to that Educate working group that will be developing that whole pillar for us. We're great at delegating in our working group. We're also going to have a session on the GHA policy agenda, so some real concrete, what are the things that we know will move the needle that we would like you to advocate for. And then a last pillar called putting it into action, where people can practice those skills. And those are like strategies and techniques that people can use if they go and have the session together, meet one another. It's going to be a very energizing session, we hope. The first one is going to be held in 2 sessions with that beta test group. That's going to be this September 14th and 21st. It will be at Habitat for Humanity's office. Thank you so much to my co-chair, Gail PA, who secured that space for us. She's on Zoom. We love her. The first class is being currently identified. We have a little matrix we're working on. Our working group split into subgroups. I mean, we're very active on this. So I just want to thank everyone, because our working group is truly working meetings on meetings on meetings, trying to get this done. So if you do have someone that you know that you think would be great for this beta test, we are asking people that beta group of 12 people to be very instrumental in feedback for us in developing the academy, so that when we roll it out, it was not just the brainchild of you know, the 10 people in our group. So if you know someone who, especially someone who has lived experience, who you think would have a really awesome input for us, please let us know. Let myself or Tina know. I think we're 2 good ones. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paulette Dunn, and I work with United Housing Connections and also the Continuum of Care. And I see a lot of familiar faces. We talked a lot about collaboration. I'm also on the Collaborate work group. Everybody in this room is a collaborator, though. So I think while our group is doing that work specifically, you all do it every day. So I have to say, first and foremost, thank you for the work that you do. No matter if you're answering the phones at your organization or you're the CEO and everybody in between. I mean, we're all helping to move the needle forward on homelessness in this room and care deeply about that. I'm just going to say a few words about task force. With the UHC and the Upstate Continuum of Care, we're just thrilled to see the impact that all of this is going to have. We're starting to really move the needle in our community, and we couldn't be happier that we are not only combating homelessness, but we're bringing awareness of the needs that are out there, especially with housing, to a much broader audience. And we're so happy to be a part of that solution. To that end, this task force was put together and was initiated to help give voice and support to downtown merchants, city residents, and also the Greenville PD as they were seeking to learn even more about homeless services and then all the options that are available to people who are experiencing homelessness. The task force, we're hopeful, can inform the outreach teams that are working on the ground every day. And it is also our hope that we will be able to offer more immediate solutions for people who are experiencing homelessness. And do that without involving people with more police interventions. So that is part of what the task force work is going to be doing. The task force is comprised of people who are dedicated to sharing and connecting people to existing services. So we know there are a plethora of services already available, just getting people plugged in at the right time for them at that moment. Representatives from the city of Greenville, Greenville PD, downtown merchants, residents of downtown, GHA, other service providers, including representatives of the CoC Club, are currently attending those meetings. We have only had 2 so far. We're just starting this task force. The first meeting was in June, and it meets the second Monday of the month at 8:30. We're meeting via Zoom right now, and they are open to anyone who's interested in really helping us help move the needle downtown specifically. We hope to use this as a pilot and to offer the same services throughout the county. We all know it's a big county, and we're trying to get this started here locally and as localized as possible where the majority of the services are now for further expansion. One other thing that I would like to mention is if you are interested and want to get involved, please either see me or pick up my business card, which is on the registration table outside, and we'll go ahead and send you the link. The next meeting is going to be Monday, August the 9th. It'll be at 8:30 again via Zoom. So we thank you for everything that you do in the community and really appreciate all the support of everybody in this room to get this job done. There's plenty of work to go around, unfortunately. So thank you very much.
Can you hear me now? I mean, it's Lauren always gives me a hard time. She says, "No, control." I talk too loud. With that, you have a balance. So, my name is Mary K. Campbell. I am I'm administrator of Greenville Mental Health Center, and I am the homeless outreach program director
for this. Also would like to share with the steering committee, the GHA, and the advisory council. I think Susan contacted me and said that Lynn Ballard would not be with us, but you're out there watching Zoom, and
He's on there.
yes, okay. Mr. Ballard, I hope some other members are out there as well. GHA thanks and extends gratitude to you and the members of the county council for allotting an additional $10 million towards affordable housing. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, sir. I'm going to do a little overview with the Upstate CoC and the GHA before I ask y'all to stand. So, and this is how Mary does it. So the Upstate CoC serves, as Lorraine said, the 13 counties. And as I know it, the lead agency in my time, which is a minute, has been UHC. So your goal is to, as Lorraine said, prevent, to reduce, and end homelessness in the upstate. Hope that's all. 2015, we had the well-orchestrated closing of Kent City under Ketal's Bridge. The leaders that came together months and months in advance to help that happen. After the closing of Kent City, we had the white paper. The leaders continued to gather, asking, questioning, how can we move it to the next level? When I say we, I mean partners, I mean our community to make it freaking rare, homelessness freaking rare. So, we had the beginnings here of what we know now as GHA and yeah, as the development of the steering committee. A grain of hope. A grain of hope. 2021. Now, we have the CFC, we have GHA. GHA is strengthened partnerships, broaden options for our hosts, for our folks, experiencing homelessness, to make that freaking rare in our community. It's not running anymore. Y'all can decide, each of you, what side of this. You know something? There's a light. GHA, you have others who have been instrumental in bringing folks together. Look around the room. Nonprofits, business sector, state agency, city and county government. Amazing. Amazing. I'm at the table altogether. Cannot stop. It's important that we continue to come together and work together. We're asked to give the light for those in need. To make homelessness free and greater in our community. Please, with the leaders of the Upstate CoC and the leadership of GHA, please stand. Yeah. Very quickly, I left a really important part out about the Upstate CoC and when you think about the partnerships with GHA, the UHC is bottom line, housing, programs, service delivery. That was very important for me to say. I left that out, so anyway, thank you all, I appreciate it. Yeah.